Hello, good evening, everybody. Let us make sure all is well with, yep, looks like we're good on everything. Thank you very much for confirming that. Okay, good. It's not 7 p.m., that's a lie. Well, it is where we are. In fact, I've been trying every week to kind of get a little flow with this thing where exactly at 7 o'clock is when I hit the start button. So I'm messing around with that as we go. Okay, guys, welcome to Critical Conversations, the show where we get to talk to you guys. This week we are discussing conspiracy theory. I am joined by my beautiful wife,
Hello.
Melissa. And of course, we also are joined by,
He's going back.
well, you can see the little tail
Okay.
sticking out of the couch there. That's our 7 cam. And that is our wonderful Cat 7, who decided not to make a camera appearance, as he is sometimes wont to do. So he's just kind of stashing back there in the behind the couch. So we'll check back in with him later, see if he's not interested in stepping out and doing something about that. Yes, we are very, very happy that Melissa is joining us for this. All right, guys. So yesterday, God, it seems like 10 years ago, yesterday, I did a live stream on the subject of QAnon. This kind of rabid, wild, sort of crazy conspiracy theory that is floating around. That is that is constantly morphing and changing and evolving as well. So it's still a live thing. And sort of talked about that, some of the causes of things like that, ideas about it. Oh, hey, thanks, Couch. Thanks for that. So, Seven Tails, yeah. Would hide behind the couch. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Okay, so we're not going to necessarily go back over all that territory again. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that podcast we did yesterday, or not podcast, but I guess live stream, I should say. That was a lot of fun. And I had, and it's been years since I have actually really looked at conspiracy theories dead on. I sort of put the whole subject to rest when I did a video called The End of Endless Conspiracy Theory Videos, or something like that. And I was done. That was my capstone on the entire subject. I figured I'd figured it out, and I got what was going on with the individuals. I still believe that's true, that psychologically I kind of understand where these people are coming from, and they're not necessarily all just crazy. It's not like that at all, in fact. And there are, in fact, a multiplicity of reasons why people can get into this. And I based a lot of my thinking and work on that on a book called With the Truthers, I think it was called. And I talked about that in that. I quoted from it extensively there. So this is now, revisited territory. We're going back into this. And I wanted to get your guys' take on this and hear what you guys had to say about it. I'm kind of curious, actually, because you and I have never talked about this, and I've never asked you, but do you have conspiracy theorists, and that's put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm just in your past or background.
Oh, yeah.
Because people know I was kind of all in on some things as a Sea Org member and Scientologist. But what about you?
Well, I think I've told you, like, my ex, he was really, like, he wasn't this way when we first started dating, but he really got into conspiracy theories, and I started getting into them with him a little bit. And, he was real into Alex Jones and 9/11 truther stuff and that kind of thing. And I got into it a little bit too, the 9/11 truther stuff anyway. And so, yeah.
Okay, so you've been down a little.
Yeah, I've been down a few rabbit holes.
A couple of these rabbit holes. Okay, good. And I tried to show her Endgame, the Alex Jones DVD that I used to use to recruit people. It was part of a very long, very extensive briefing, and I almost fell out of my chair watching it again. I could not believe. I mean, you remember some parts, but then other parts you remember very differently. And I got a podcast coming up on memory that with my neuroscientist friend that I think you guys are gonna really like. Been putting that together for a little while. Staying at the YMCA. Great. Yeah, so YMCA. So yeah, okay. Where was I going? I was saying, oh yeah, so conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So Melissa and I were actually talking a little bit before the show here today, and there has been this idea. Hey, England.
Hello.
Hey, welcome. Yeah, conference went belly up right afterwards. That's right. There has been an idea that kind of entered into my head a couple months ago that was put there by a guy, actually maybe a year ago, by a guy named Johann Hari. And he's an author who has written, you're reading a book right now about
Chasing the Scream.
About the drug wars. He did a TED Talk about depression, and it got me thinking about depression in a different way. Specifically in a way that is more framed in the looking not just in the individual's head, not just at what's going on with them and their reactions to life or misreactions or whatever. Hey, thanks R.R. Smith for that. Oh God, no! Please do not mail me that stuff. I'm good, thank you. And I mean that sincerely. Thank you very much for the offer, but I'm good. I've definitely got plenty of conspiracy stuff. Okay, so one of the things that Johann Hari is suggesting is that perhaps depression has a societal element of causation as well, not just it's something wrong with that person. And this got me thinking in a slightly different direction and started, the wheels get turning. You start seeing things, you start putting, trying to connect dots and living your life and doing your research and stuff like I do, where I think about thinking a lot. I'm always going on and on about that. And so I started thinking about, well, what sort of effects does does a group mind have? What sort of effects does society have on us and we have on it? And what is the dynamic? What is the interplay here? How would we frame this and look at this? And then today I started thinking, oh, good. And we've already got a call in the queue here. So good. We will get to that in just a minute. But I just wanted to kind of go a little bit along this road, and we'll go further down this road later in the episode here of perhaps what's wrong with us, quote unquote, on an individual level has more to do with the environment we live in than we necessarily have been giving credit to. We all know that if you walk into this crazy, confused situation, you're going to start feeling agitated and confused.
Right.
So clearly, your environment and the conditions of your life, let's say, conditions of your job, conditions of your family, conditions of groups you're part of, like a cult, let's say, right? We harp on and on about that, can clearly have an effect on the individual's mental health, his thinking processes, and even how he thinks or what he allows himself to think or herself. So let me just plant that much right now. There will be more on this as we go, but I am keen to talk to Kevin here, so let's pick this call up. All right, hello.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Hey, I was calling in because I wanted to find out your opinion on what the most harmful conspiracy theory is at this point in time.
Cool. I think right now the QAnon thing is the most harmful one. If I was going to start pointing fingers at this time in this place, that's what I would say. What do you think?
QAnon would be up there for me, but I have to fall back on all the anti-vaccination stuff.
That's
good point.
A good one.
That's a very good point. I think that will actually. I think that'll come into the forefront once we get a vaccine.
Yeah, I just the whole notion that these big companies are holding back to make profit. Which they not saying they're all good, but there's just too many people involved for that to happen.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah, we can see that. We can see an example, and I'll take this off my Twitter feed from today. Bob Woodward can hold out on releasing information that Trump has said that it was fairly significant information about COVID-19 and what Trump had to say about it and when he knew about it.
Yeah, I read about that today.
Right? Pretty significant piece of information. Didn't particularly surprise me because, you know,
No.
you know Trump's character, and you also know the office of POTUS is the most informed, that is the most informed person on the planet.
Right.
So the idea that he didn't know that COVID-19 was a problem doesn't wash. But
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But where I'm going with this is, yes, an individual like Bob Woodward can decide to hold off on some information he's got, and that's credible. You go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But an entire company or an entire agency of the government, that's where things get a bit, the credibility gets a bit strained, I think.
And with the anti-vax,
absolutely,
tons of companies.
Exactly.
And tons of universities and tons of...
Yep. Right. And you just fall back on the, you know, it's the more people involved, the more somebody's going to talk. It's just that simple.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. I agree, man. You had any more you wanted to talk about on that?
No, that's all. That's it.
Awesome.
Just wanted to call you guys. This is the first time I called in and the first time I talked to you. So.
Well, I'm glad you did.
I'm one of your patrons, so I figured I'd call in and say hi.
Yes. Okay. So, great. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right.
Yep,
talk to you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Good. Let me carry this one thought a little bit further, and then we'll take the next call we have here from Stanley. Okay. I wanted to. What I was talking to Melissa about, and what I'm actually going to read from in a little bit. Excuse me, because I did a little Googling and found a couple interesting articles on this, is I'm wondering about if we're gonna look at the idea that society could have an effect, a substantial effect on the mental health or the stability or, you know, anxiety levels, let's say, or stress levels of its citizens or of its members, right? If a group can do that, then doesn't it stand to reason that we would want to look to society and some of what's going on in society to try to figure out why people are stressed or anxious, right? Goes both ways. So I'm starting to wonder, given how many swaths of people we are now liberally, happily calling very stupid, idiotic, moronic people. We do it every day. I mean, all of us do, right? We all do. We get frustrated. We get upset. We see people doing what we think is the dumbest thing you could possibly do, right? Because you understand fact X, Y, and Z, and clearly this person doesn't. So they're a moron. We do this all day, every day. It's all over social media, right? In fact, if anything, social media has even exacerbated it. Well, what if it's not really a case of people being stupid? I mean, demonstrably, you can point to individual examples and go, yes, that's absolutely stupidity, or it's ignorance. But what if the factors of our society have just gotten a little too complicated for all of us to keep up with? And what if that itself, what if we have evolved into a structure that is destructive to us or our thinking or our stability? Let's say our mental stability, put it that way. Or some of our mental stability, not all of us. What about that? Just a thought. All right, let's talk to Stanley for a second. Now I'll connect dots between what I'm talking about and conspiracy theory as we go here, because I know it might seem disrelated, and I'm not looking at the comments at all right now, but I hope but we'll connect those dots. Okay, let's talk to Stanley. Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to chime in about conspiracy theories. With the current fires and everything happening right now, there's a conspiracy theory that it's directed energy weapons coming from Russia.
Yep.
That the Russians are like setting fires through, I guess, from some kind of space beam or something.
Wow.
And they're just particularly targeting these
the
two
forests.
states.
Wasn't there something similar to this? There was another group that was supposed to be running around doing this as well with laser weapons. I think I think we were blaming I think there was somebody saying it was a false flag like a year ago when we were having those crazy fires too.
Oh.
Well, there's you're right. There's a couple of theories. There's the Russian one, and there's another one I believe that's called Deborah Tavares. It's called Stop the Crime. she thinks it's because they're trying to get people out of the like people who live in those areas, trying to force them to live in the cities, and then they could be controlled by, like, you know, they want to move them into just like cramped skyscraper type buildings.
Right.
And then that would be like, that's what they're trying to do.
I think that follows along with actually the DVD I was mentioning earlier, Alex Jones's Endgame. I don't know if she's watched that, but I certainly have. He talks about that. This is back in 2008 or 9 is when this DVD is from. And he talks about how there are going to be mega cities and everybody's going to be herded into the mega cities, you know, along the super highways. And this is how we're all going to be controlled and population's going to be reduced.
Yes. That's what I wanted to chime in about. They think it's something to do with that.
Right. Well, that is, what do you think about that? What's your thoughts?
Well, I look at it just for information's sake. I take it with a grain of salt.
Yep.
So I look at it as a source of information, kind of like, you know how the Inquirer magazine used to be, like they would put all this, and it was just for entertainment or just for, as an extra source of information, not as to be taken serious.
Exactly.
That's how I do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that's about the level that I deal with this stuff too. Is I don't take it too seriously. If somebody's going to make credible claims to me about something like that, they're going to have to meet the Carl Sagan standard, where it's extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I can't take somebody's word for things like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I can't go there with that.
Yeah.
I need something more substantial.
Yes.
Cool, man.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Great show.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. So cool. So
anyone that believes a conspiracy theory about them doing the fires on purpose to get people in cities, I'm like, that doesn't make sense here in Colorado, though.
No, it's probably
Denver's not exactly cramped, anyways. You know.
I was hearing about that mostly as a California thing earlier. I don't know if that's the case now, but that's what I've mostly heard about it from, and that's where the most extensive fires I think are.
Right, and we've got
big
the
problems
hugest
here.
one in Colorado, at least in Colorado history. But
but then again, you know, we're not exactly on the 9/11 truther message
radar,
boards either. here in Colorado, we're not really paying too much attention to the conspiracy stuff going on here. All right. Okay. Let's see what we got here. This is Robert, I believe. All right. Let's hit that again. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just called in because conspiracy theories, along with Scientology watching, I think the two go together. I love both of them. I've never really believed in I've never really believed in conspiracy theories, but one thing has intrigued me, and that is that the Carl Sagan test, I don't believe is fair for conspiracy theories, because the idea that for extraordinary claims you should provide extraordinary evidence, I think in a way sort of begs the question or precludes the fact that conspiracies could actually exist. Because there are organizations that we know, like, for instance, the mafia is the prime example, that entirely exist with the stipulation that they are hiding their activities from the public and that they are actually conspiring. And that's just one organization out of many. I think the CIA, you could legitimately say, is another one that deliberately obfuscates and does commit conspiracies.
You're not wrong.
So when you're trying to apply that logic, that conspiracies cannot exist or do not exist because there's no evidence for them, my question back to you is, how do you account for organizations like the mafia? And I guess the one example that I love is the JFK murder conspiracy. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy led Senate hearings or led his attacks on the mafia. And John F. Kennedy is killed by a man in Dallas, and his killer is killed by an acknowledged mafioso. His killer is killed within hours of being arrested. And so I use that as an example, and I wonder if there are any conspiracy theories that you can honestly say may be true, or you may have believed in.
Sure, absolutely. I'll tell you an example of the kind of thing that I feel would be an applicable use of what I said about Carl Sagan's standard. Here's a real life example that actually convinced me a little bit. Okay, that actually, like, I went, oh, hey, whoa, there is something to this. Because at first, I literally just could not stop laughing about it. And then as I looked more and more into it, it became clearer and clearer that there actually was something to it. And what I'm referring to is the Bohemian Grove. Are you familiar with that?
No, I've never heard of that one.
Okay, so this is a getaway location. It's very real, and it really is true that they do this, or did this at least. And this goes all the way back to the days of Nixon, Ford. I mean, this is old. This has been around for a long time. And this is something Alex Jones would go on and on about. And let me just pull it up, because there's probably something on Wikipedia about it. It is, yeah, there it is, Wikipedia. It is it's a real thing. It's a restricted 2,700 acre campground at 20601 Bohemian Avenue in Monte Rio, California. Belongs to a private San Francisco-based gentlemen's club known as the Bohemian Club. And Alex Jones would talk about, and other conspiracy theorists would talk about, how politicians and presidents have visited this place, have gone through some very bizarre rituals, Wiccan ceremonies, maybe satanic ceremonies, like really weird, oddball stuff. And you go, really? really? Richard Nixon was running around doing that? And they run around naked, or they run around in robes, and they do this and that. And there's just 1,000 stories about this place. And I just thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of, until Alex Jones actually snuck into the place.
That's the
and got
documentary of his I had seen.
Yeah, and he got video of it. And he actually got video of them with a big statue made of corn stalks or something, and they were, doing it and chanting these rituals. And I was like, God damn, that is interesting stuff. Now, I can't say...
That's a prime...
Go ahead.
Oh, that's a prime example of where I think that the whole... Like, I admire Carl Sagan enormously. Mm-hmm. And, of course, in most cases, I think, yes, if you're going to make extraordinary claims, you need extraordinary evidence. Mm-hmm. But I think that falls down with conspiracies, and that you're actually making some kind of claim that powerful organizations and institutions don't conspire to keep some things from public knowledge. And there have been times like this Bohemian, any club that calls itself Bohemian Club and is secret is probably going to have something or other going on that's fallacious.
That's
you
right.
Don't name yourself the Bohemian Club and then, take up stamp collecting or something.
Exactly.
So
no, where I was trying to go with that is when somebody asserts a piece of truth, a real falsifiable claim, like there are laser beams from this organization or this government doing this thing, they got to source it. They got to show me that that's a real claim. Otherwise, they could just be making that up, and I can't take that. You know what I mean? Even though it might be a real conspiracy. And I will certainly bookmark it, and I will certainly say, well, okay, like the Bohemian Grove thing. At first, I kind of laughed it off, but I bookmarked it. And when further actual evidence came in, then I could sink my teeth into it. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not counseling or suggesting automatic rejection of information just because there's no evidence. I'm just suggesting I can't take it all in without some evidence. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree that there has to be, especially when specific claims are made.
Right.
I think then you would want maybe a higher level of evidence. But for me, the conspiracy that I think may actually exist was the John F. Kennedy one that I mentioned, because there I think there is a trickle of evidence that may be hiding a flood, because again, a president whose brother is attacking mobsters is then himself killed, and his assassin is killed by an acknowledged mafioso within hours of his arrest. So I think, although you don't, it's when you build this massive construction of the Oliver Stone movie on it, where it's the CIA and it's Lyndon Johnson and it's this and it's that, and it's Lyndon Johnson is leading a CIA conspiracy to take over from Kennedy, who was going to lead us to the sunny uplands of socialism, or whatever Oliver Stone's theory is.
On it
I think there, yes, that should be arrested. But on the idea that a conspiracy may certainly exist, I think sometimes you have to acknowledge that there are powerful people doing things that we cannot prove that they are doing.
And I completely agree with that. And we can actually acknowledge the truth of that because we have very real life examples that have been exposed through FOIA and through declassification of documents that did not do the government any favors in terms of public image. When we talk about the Tuskegee experiments, or we talk about Paperclip, or we talk about Mockingbird, or MK Ultra, or any number of these projects that were done that were totally real, totally legit. In other words, many hundreds, thousands of people worked on these things with full knowledge of what they were doing, and they did it anyway. And you just go, wow. So absolutely, I'm not at all saying. I'm not saying there's no conspiracies.
Yeah, no, well, that's all I had to say. And that is, I loved your show. I've loved your work for years. It's been one thing I would like to say is it actually gives me a great deal of pleasure to see you happily married with your lovely wife, and to see you when you're online most of the time, you're happy and you're engaged and you're doing something productive and you're helping other people. And it makes me, it actually warms my heart personally to see you and to think of all the distance you've traveled since that video of you in your Sea Org uniform walking in Org, thin as a rail. And I'm thinking of you giving these briefings to get people in the Sea Org. And I'm just like, oh, what a distance you've traveled. What a road you've been on.
Thank you.
Like I said, it makes me feel glad to see someone who really deserves a couple of good breaks in life. And with Melissa and with your work, I think you're making the most of the life that you have now. And like I said, you've given me a lot of pleasure. And thanks a lot for your time tonight. And always.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
that was probably the most awesome thing somebody has said to me in a really long time. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
have a good evening. I'm
you too.
Go have a sandwich.
Yeah, good. Bye-bye, Stanley. That was the most awesome call we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Now I'm all red. All right, let's. We got some calls coming in. This is great. Let's just keep going. All right. So I think this is probably my favorite caller. Hello.
Hello, my dear.
Boom.
Nice to
It's Henny.
this evening. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Chris. Hi, Seven. How are you guys tonight?
We are good. How are you, Henny?
I'm good. This is a great topic that you picked for tonight. I'm very interested in it.
Me too. Yeah,
I really am. It is good stuff. A long time ago, I had believed in a conspiracy theory, and I really did. I was kind of sucked into the whole thing. And basically, a woman was murdered. And I just assumed it was the man that she was having the affair with. And it was a big case. I can't remember, and it was a long time ago, over a decade ago. So you have to forgive me. But in any event, what I was always believed, of course, with facts, that usually it was somebody you knew. And it turned out that it wasn't.
In this case, it wasn't that. Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't. And I said to myself, I really was so adamant in my belief that it was this guy that I had to rethink the way that I thought about the information I was receiving.
Yep.
And why you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so I decided from that point to really listen to fact and truth and fact, most of all, and really dig into things before you make a decision. And conspiracy theories can be, You know, I mean, they come up with the wildest shit I ever heard. You'll excuse me, but I mean, really, I can't believe half this stuff. But,
I know.
I wanted to say that a friend of mine also is a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I'm not going to say also because I really have changed my way. I try to keep an open mind.
Yep.
He's totally a conspiracy theorist. And as I've got to know him throughout the many decades that we've been friends, I've noticed something, Chris. And what happened was when he was a very young child growing up, his father had a shelter built down in the basement. And he had to prepare it along with his brothers, actually help his father build it.
Oh, sure. Like back in the 50s.
Yeah, because, you know, I'm older. Okay. Yep. Exactly. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, this is where the onion starts to unpeel.
That's right.
Okay? I mean, it goes from so long ago that was implanted really in his head. I mean, obviously nothing happened that they needed to build a shelter in their home.
That's right.
But that feeling and that fear and that, you know, really impacted this man. And that's why I think people come up with these crazy ideas. That's the only thing I could possibly imagine.
I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on, Henny. I think that's exactly right. I think a lot of the foundations for what we see later in life with people's beliefs and ideas is laid as when you're a kid, you know, obviously, because that's where all your values are instilled. And unless you have some kind of massive life reset, those are the values you're going to have for the rest of your life.
You really are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And like, I try to like discuss things with him and he's just adamant in conspiracy ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Totally. Right out of the blue. And it's very shocking. And with that, I wanted to ask you one more thing and then I'm going to let you go. I could sit there and talk to you for an hour. Okay. 2 hours, but I'm not going to do that. It's not fair for everybody else.
Thank you, Henny.
You're welcome, Chris. Listen, you had mentioned something about QAnon.
Yes.
What? Okay. If you could briefly just go into what that is, because I'm so out of touch with reality. I really am.
No problem.
I've heard, I thank you. I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is. So just like a brief synopsis of what exactly the hell that is. Okay?
No problem. Very simply, let me just tell you right now. Very simply, QAnon is kind of a morphed collection of conspiracy theories that's kind of growing. But the basic core idea is that there is a hidden cabal of Satan worshiping sex traffickers who are mostly Democrats or anti-Trump type people, and this collection of people have been operating above the law without even fear of being caught out for decades now. And Donald Trump knows about this and has in fact got it in the works that there is going to be a great awakening.
Oh boy.
And yes, the religious phraseology there is correct. It's very evangelical in nature. It's not just evangelicals who believe in this stuff, but the whole theory kind of runs in this kind of language. And this great awakening is going to be this time when Trump is going to have all these people arrested and sent to Guantanamo Bay, just like that. And there's going to be like this period of, I think it's like 10 days or something, where everybody's going to be locked in their homes and nobody can leave for any reason whatsoever of any kind. And during that time is when this big massive roundup is going to happen, and they're all going to get sent to Guantanamo, and Trump is going to emerge, as the savior after this 10-day period. And Joe Kennedy, who I think died a few years ago, is actually alive and is going to join Trump as his vice president. And I probably missed a couple of the key threads, but that's the basic.
It's insanity. It's insanity.
It's quite wild. It's quite a wild idea.
To me, it just sounds like insanity. You lost me at Satanism.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, and do you follow what I mean? I can't even. I don't understand.
It sounds a lot like a paranoid delusion. And the only reason why you see me.
Let me tell you something.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like L. Ron Hubbard's paranoid delusion. Go ahead. I swear to God. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Go ahead.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. I have to. The only reason why you see me hesitate to go, yes, it's mental illness or it's insanity, right, is because there's a lot of beliefs out there that people hold that are actually just as nuts, and that doesn't necessarily indicate that the person's actually insane. But the ideas are absolutely insane. I definitely will agree with you on that.
Well, that to me, I listen. I can't subscribe to insanity. I can't. I told you I'm a realist.
Yep.
I'm a realist. Okay.
Thanks,
all right.
Eddie.
Listen, I know you have things to read. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Getting back to the show.
Excellent. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the explanation.
You bet.
Also, thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right. We got a couple other guys in the queue here, so let's pull them up. Mark, we are coming up to you. Hey, man.
Yes. I got two questions for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to Scientology, from what I've been hearing, that Scientologists are dying off at an alarming rate. I keep wondering what Miscavige's is going to do when no longer has anybody to beat up or bitch at.
He's got a constant stream of new recruits coming up to him. He's not going to run out of people for quite a while. The Sea Org is not growing, but it's still got a few thousand people in it. And he can pull from those new recruits, those new fresh, doe-eyed, innocent, people, and pull them on up to the international management base or wherever he's located if he needs people. And he can have them at his beck and call. It's not that much of a problem yet. They're not dying off that fast.
Yeah, and the second comment is that you guys talking about conspiracies, and I'm a little bit of a UFO buff. I'm not whole hogged into it, but I truly believe that something is going on. The key word is something.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's.
You don't know the exact.
You don't know if it's little green. You don't know if it's little green. You don't know if it's little green men from Mars, or government has some super thick toys they want us to know about.
That's right.
That's how I see it.
That's right. Well, the fact that they, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show here. I think we showed those videos, and I thought that was fascinating stuff, personally. I think when you have Navy combat jets or pilots who are probably the most trained observers I can think of, saying, I got no idea what that was. I was in the air with it, I saw it, and I got nothing. Then I kind of go, wow, that's interesting. So.
Yeah, there's this, I saw this one show, it's pretty well documented. This Korean airline, 747 cargo jet was flying, I forget what's flying from, but it's flying to Anchorage. And this thing is being shadowed by a UFO, or shadowed by something. Fighter said it was the size of an aircraft carrier. And Anchorage had it on their radar.
Wow. I'll have to look that up.
So something was up there with them.
Interesting.
Because it was on Anchorage's their radar, and they had and the people at the control tower watching this UFO doing circles around it, and the pilots tried to lose it, but it stayed right with them. So that's pretty well documented.
Well, that's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm down for something. I'm down for something. I'd like to know what that something is.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to know.
And out in Arizona, I forget it's out somewhere in the Midwest. There's this highway that the locals know not to drive on at night. weird stuff happens at night. And like some trucker wakes up, parking lot, and all his windows are shot out, and this 45 is sitting on the passenger seat, and he has no clue what happened. And people drive along, and their car acts up a little bit, and it starts operating right now, and they get into this little oasis, kind of a truck stop diner, and people realize, oh my God, how come it took us 2 hours to get here?
Right.
And so locals know not to be on the road at night because weird stuff happens at night, and it has a diner that's kind of a UFO theme to it.
Interesting.
I got this. I don't know the first way, but from what I've been told, one of their specials, it's called the anal probe hot dog.
Well, I have to thank you for telling me about that. That's pretty funny.
Oh man!
All right, I'm gonna let you go because I got somebody else in the queue. But thanks for calling in. You're awesome, man. Thanks a lot. Bye. All right, and oh my God, the anal probe hot dog. Wow. All right, let's talk to Keith in Harlingen. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, thanks for holding off. Thanks for holding on for so long.
Yeah.
This ain't really key. This is like Daily Miscavige, and we want you back, Chris.
Oh, well, I'll just come right back now.
We'll give you any position you want, Chris. But first, you have to confess your crimes to Scientology and against me, and $100,000 in Argentina.
Well, maybe not.
All right. So what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about conspiracy theories, my friend. Do you have any? Have you heard any? Do you have any ideas about such?
Oh, I've heard a lot.
I bet.
The only thing I believe is what I see.
Smart man.
That's smart.
That's it.
Smart man.
It's kind of funny that all these UFO videos, it's been the same quality since the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think with the technology now that it would be like greater resolution. But it's the same thing. It's like, it's like a distant light off in the distance. I mean, you can't tell.
I know. Well, the thing that impressed me about the naval jet footage, because I agree with you. I mean, most of it is just nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And did you see that show we did a few weeks ago about UFOs?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you saw that footage, and it does look like a little pill or a little white dot or something.
Well, Chris, they debunked that. They said it was like they said it was another jet airplane.
Oh,
really? Did they explain how the jet dropped from 30,000 to almost the deck in a matter of a couple seconds in a maneuver that airplanes don't do?
Well, that was his statement, but that was not what was on the video.
I see.
okay.
I see.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But yeah.
Well, I'll have to check out the debunking of those videos then. But I was still pretty intrigued by them. But I might possibly have a bias.
Chris,
yes.
What do you think about UFOs?
I think that they are a possibility. I think mathematically speaking, statistically speaking, I suppose, in the big wide universe, it's either we are alone because the chances of life happening on some other planet are basically impossible, and this was such a random spark that we're the only thing that exists. I don't think that's the case, though. I think the case is that there's life in lots of places in the universe that has evolved, some earlier than us, some later than us. And could it have technology? Could it come here? Possibly. It's within the realm of possibility, but I don't know.
I think there's life out there, but the physics, I think they cannot come here. But on another note, on your other video, you said you didn't research Xenu at all, but you had internet access.
Oh, when I was in the Sea Org. Yes, I did not. And when I was in the Sea Org, I did not look up anything about Xenu. But that was just thought policing. That wasn't because I didn't have internet access.
Why is that? Why is that?
Why did I not look up Xenu?
Yeah.
Because I was under the impression that if I learned about the OT3 story before I got to OT3, that it could kill me. And I honestly believe that was true.
Huh.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard said that. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not like I can look back on that with pride, but I believed it. So.
And Henny, I am Q.
What was that?
I said Henny called before. I'm Q.
Oh, you're Q. Okay, got it. All right, man. Well, thanks for calling.
All right, Chris, man. You have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Cool. Okay, those are the calls in our queue right now. How are we doing on our... Okay, good. We're going to move on. So, you come back to Scientology, they let you spend your time hanging with the celebs. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. All right. Yes, ex-Scientologist is asking, wasn't there a cover story in Scientology that said LRH was an undercover government spy in the Jack Parsons mansion to expose his occult practices and sex magic rituals? Yes, that is exactly the church's explanation for why L. Ron Hubbard had anything to do with Jack Parsons, as he was in there as an undercover agent from the authorities to bust up a sex ring and saved a woman in the process, right?
Sure he did.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Church of Scientology, we have documentation that says otherwise. All right, so I'm just gonna wrestle with my arm here all night. So let me now move the show along by getting back to this point. Oh, but first, I'm always cutting myself off because we need more 7-cam. I'm always forgetting the 7-cam. So there's that tail sticking out. Still sitting there behind the couch. That's the couch we sit on and watch TV on and stuff. And he'll sit there all the time. He'll just kick back underneath us. That's what he does. Sometimes he'll sit up on top too. But anyway, that's our 7-cam. Okay, we'll check back in with him one more time before we go. But I wanted to throw out this thing about the conspiracy theorists' mindset, okay? I have talked at some length in the past about... Yeah, he's teasing us. I have talked at some length in the past about the reasons why people fall for conspiracy theories. And I wanted to kind of just give you guys some food for thought here, okay? Just some ideas that I've kind of got going through my head that I thought might have some relevance to this. Maybe not, but I think they do, based on you know, my own personal experience and talking to other people who are deep into conspiracy theory mindsets. Flat earthers, Scientologists, Q people, other conspiracies, 9/11 truthers. I've had a lot of conversations in person with a lot of conspiracy theorists, and I've had it from a lot of different headspaces of my own, from agreeing with them to thinking they're nuts. So, okay. And I've certainly, you know, eaten my share of crow in regards to conspiracy theories too. When you learn about how some are real, as Stanley was correctly pointing out in our phone call earlier tonight, you know, you do have real, live, nefarious conspiracies that have happened in the past that were quite awful, and they're undeniable. You know, the government admitted to it. This is just the United States conspiracies. What's happened in Russia? What's happened in England? What's happened in France? I mean, there's probably other stuff, other dirt we could dig up on those places too.
Sure.
You know, you get groups of people together and they've got idealism in mind, or they've got, you know, some other national security in mind, or some other nonsense. And people have gotten into some pretty weird headspaces as to what they think is okay and not okay behavior to, you know, ensure national security and stuff like that. So, you know, we've had to deal with the fallout of a lot of that. But my thinking comes down to the individual person who is falling for conspiracy theories that we know without question, just are not true, right? And here we're talking about something like QAnon, where real life examples exist of people going like to the Comet Ping Pong Pizza place with a gun, ready to take the place down, ready to go into the basement, save the kids that Alex Jones swore were there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not, right? Because the place doesn't even have a basement, because it's not real, because people were just going hog wild with imagination, reading John Podesta's emails and making shit up. Why do people do that, though? Why, right? Well, we've talked about the various individual reasons, basically having to do with major life changes, traumatic episodes, traumatic loss. True insanity sometimes is a case, but it's actually fairly rare comparatively to some of these other causes, these things that just get people into these weird, different headspaces. But why would they go there? Well, I'm starting to believe that one reason for this, beyond the individuals, is because we have sort of evolved a society that's a little too complicated for some of us, maybe for all of us at one degree or another. And, oh, that's a good question on Snowden. I'll get back to that. So I wanted to read you guys something that's just pretty short that I thought might relate to conspiracy theories a little bit, and what I am always going on and on and on about as to how complicated the world is. I mean, she knows.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The world's a complicated place. Intensively so. Like, so intensively so that none of us have been able to actually grasp it fully.
Right.
For hundreds of years now. It's been hundreds of years since one person was able to master, be a jack of all trades in an organization that he runs, or, you know, a guild, or, you know, whatever. It's still an organization. And know all the jobs in it, backwards and forwards, right? Like, how long has it been since we've really had that level of understanding of what's going on at all the levels below us?
Right.
Been a long damn time. Well, let me relate a couple pieces of information to you that I found interesting that I thought might help explain some of this conspiracy stuff. This is an article by a guy named Jason Cobbler, and this was written in November of 2016. And it says, it's on Vice. And the title of the article is "Society is Too Complicated to Have a President. Complex Mathematics Suggest." Roughly 2/3 of Americans believe the country is going in the wrong direction. And Tuesday, the country will vote for two of the least popular presidential candidates of all time. Sound familiar? It's kind of 2020, 2016. This is 2016. 2020 is kind of that all over again. Both the left and the right say that the United States government is ineffective. One potential reason for this: human society is simply too complex for representative democracy to work. The United States probably shouldn't have a president at all, according to an analysis by mathematicians at the New England Complex Systems Institute. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but this next stuff is kind of interesting. NESCI is a research organization that uses math cribbed from the study of physical and chemical systems. Bear with me for a moment. And newly available giant data sets to explain how events in one part of the world might affect something seemingly unrelated in another part of the world. And this is fascinating stuff. We often go on about how correlation is not causation, how you want direct links between things, but sometimes you need a little math to actually see just how the relationships work. And sometimes there are relationships where it's not obvious that there is one. For example, most famously, the Institute's director, a man named Yanir Bar-Yam, predicted the Arab Spring several weeks before it happened. He found that seemingly unrelated policy decisions, ethanol subsidies in the US, and the deregulation of commodity markets worldwide led to skyrocketing food prices in 2008 and 2011. Now, if you'd asked me about food prices skyrocketing, I don't know that I would have looked to ethanol subsidies in the US as a reason why. Turns out that there's a very neat correlation between the United Nations Food Price Index and the unrest and rioting worldwide that no one but Bar Yam had picked up. When considering our system of government, the link between these policies and the unexpected global violence is an illustrative but hardly unique one. Bar Yam was able to describe these cause and effect relationships in detail because he, looking at very specific inputs and very specific outputs, he was zooming in on specific parts of the system that is human civilization in an attempt to explain one small but important part of the world. There is a natural process of increasing complexity in the world, and we can recognize that at some point, that increase in complexity is going to run into the complexity of the individual, and at that point, hierarchical organizations will fail. Now, where I'm going with that, of course, is that cause and effect are not always obvious, and the world is becoming so complicated, perhaps overly so, with the demands that are put on us as individuals that we can't keep up. And over a period of days, months, years of this kind of stress, of this kind of anxiety-inducing fear of missing out that we all kind of are suffering from these days, we now are living in a time where we are expected to understand and know China's government, Russia's government, the UK, as well as our own country, so that we can understand what's going on in the relationships between these countries, much less the Philippines, South Korea, North Korea, Japan, India. I mean, we can just keep throwing countries into the mix here. And this is just trying to understand one little part of what is our nightly news called foreign relations. How can you judge, you know, the good or badness of the decisions that our government's making if we don't understand those things, you know? So that's a little bit of a problem that I believe in some people's minds leads to a bit of overwhelm and confusion and upset to a degree that they don't know what's true anymore. They don't even know how to find out what's true anymore. So they're grasping at straws, kind of like all of us are, but the straws they grasp hold of are the ones that they can most easily understand, and that somehow create a simple Simon picture of reality that fits for how they see the world. And that's your conspiracy theorist. Really just trying to figure out their way through life in the way that the rest of us are, but they are so, you know, there's an overwhelm, anxiety, stress level there, I think, that these life changes contribute to. This doesn't take away from anything we're talking about at the individual level, but I think we have a societal situation here too. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's interesting stuff, and I'll get a link to that article on the show notes after we're done here, so you guys can check that out. Now you asked me about Edward Snowden. What's your take on Edward Snowden? I'm gonna give you hers first.
I think he kind of did the right thing in a way, because we need to know what our government is up to when it comes to spying on us. And, you know, we have a right to know that. You know, obviously, if you're a criminal and you're doing something wrong and you can prove that and you need to get a warrant and then you tap their phone, fine. But just people that haven't done anything yet, that's not okay with me. So
I think I agree with you. There is the link in the comment section to that article I was just reading from. And like I said, I'll get it in the show notes. I agree with you that it is not cool to be spying on people domestically when you're saying you're not, which is what the government was doing. I mean, let's just, you know, be obviously super, super clear about that. Excuse me. There have been a number of government officials who have lied before Congress, lied, you know, about what the NSA is doing, what the FBI is doing, what the CIA is doing. In these public hearings and stuff, they'll just tell bold-faced lies. And when it came to these surveillance programs post 9/11, they were incredibly intrusive programs. Mm-hmm. I mean, incredibly so, to a degree that it was just uncomfortably intrusive. In an effort to figure out how to solve the problem of how do we stop the bad guys. Well, you have a couple bad guys. I mean, let's take a look at 9/11. You had 11 bad guys. You're going to pick 11 bad guys out of this sea of millions, a couple 100 million people here in the United States. Mm-hmm. Really? How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to have eyes on everybody. Nope. Nope. So I agree that Edward Snowden was faced with a moral dilemma of magnitude. And I have to agree that in a democracy that we represent ourselves to be, we need more transparency, not less, from our government when it comes to what they believe they can and cannot be doing to us. So for those reasons, I support what Edward Snowden did, because I think the government engaged in a massive amount of overreach in what they were doing there. I don't think we needed that level of security in order to have a society that doesn't have terrorists in it. The fact of the matter is that had the intelligence organizations coordinated better pre-9/11, namely the CIA and the FBI in their investigation actions, as was thoroughly documented by Lawrence Wright, then 9/11 wouldn't have happened. So we already had the institutions and technology and people in place to be able to stop it. What we didn't have was coordination and cooperation between these agencies. Mm-hmm. And that was our downfall. That was our contribution to the effort. And that's, according to everything I've ever seen or read on this subject. And Lawrence Wright's definitely somebody who, that was his Pulitzer Prize winning work, by the way, was The Fallen Tower. That was what he won that for before he wrote Going Clear. So, yeah, so good stuff. Okay, cool. Just kind of checking over some of the comments here. How we doing on the comment section?
Doing pretty good, yeah.
Yeah? Well, let us see one more time what's up with the little one. There is the 7 cam.
Oh.
And there is the little tail still flicking, which is fascinating. He's usually, oh my God, there he goes. Okay. And
he's off.
7's no longer in frame at all. And that's kind of par for the course, getting 7 on camera. All right. So that's our, that is our, well, I guess that's our show for tonight.
All right.
Yeah, I did want to say, we very, very, very much appreciate all your donations. Thank you very much. And I wanted to acknowledge, I think it was TJ or that last donation that came in from Tamara. Thank you very much for that. TK, I think. And did someone open up a can of Deep State? So I would like to say, the show does cost us a little bit to put on each week. So I very much appreciate the contributions. And I do want to put it out there that if you are enjoying my channel and the show and it's doing something for you and you're finding it educational, informative, and entertaining, then consider joining us on Patreon. Because that is literally how we keep these lights on and keep this wonderful equipment going and all of that. So, and of course, you can always bless us with a one-off through PayPal, and the link to that is in the description section to this video. So, got to put that out there.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for your...
You are welcome.
Help, maybe. Did you have anything you wanted to say on this before we end off?
I'm okay. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, guys. And boy, we could probably talk about conspiracies for the rest of the night, but I just had a couple points I wanted to make. I think we made them. I hope we did.
Yeah.
Anyway, some food for thought, and maybe food for later episodes as well.
Right.
If we start looking at that.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, let us wrap it up. Oh, I think there it is. Okay, good.